ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुं मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome everyone for our today morning study and discussion from Srila Prabhupada book titled as ISOPANISHAD. We are on the text 8. Saparyaga shukram akayam avranam ashnaviram shuddham apapavitham Kavir Munisi Paribhu Swayambhu Yatha Tayotorthan Vyadata Chasvatibhya Samabhaya Yatha Tayotorthan Vyadata Chasvatibhya Samabhaya. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. I believe we started reading yesterday on the subject matter. So this verse talks about the qualities of the Lord, which excites Mayavadis and also equally Vaishnavas. What is the thing that excites here? This verse says the Lord is Akayam, Ashnaviram. Akaya means without body. Ashnavira means without veins. And the devotees also get excited. Yes, this is proves. Devotees are saying it proves, and Mayavada is saying it proves. What proves? And both of the conclusions are entirely opposite. Mayavada says, see, God does not have body. He is formless. And devotee says, see, Lord does not have material body. He has spiritual body. How conclusion can differ? Very interesting, isn't it? Same word. So it's all the game of, the conclusions, what faith we develop. So we were discussing about this yesterday from Prabhupada purpose. Prabhupada spoke about Akaya, Vaishnaviram, and also Shukram. And then there was a discussion about DT. We talked about what are the challenges to DT worship and what are the arguments against the challenges like that. So those all have been discussed. Shukra means omnipotent. The omnipotency of the Lord means is all powerful, which means he can do anything with any of his senses. We are compartmentalized. Eyes can do function of eyes, ears can do only function of ears. Prabhupada calls it compartmentalized. When it comes to the Lord, he is all free, all potent, omnipotent, which means he can do anything. And that is what we discussed already. Tadejeti tannajeti taddure tadva antike tadantarasya sarvasya tadisarvasya bhayataha. Text number 5 of ISOPANISHAD. He walks, he does not walk. He's far, he is very near. He's inside, he's outside. Like that, it was mentioned. So everything is possible for him. And now we'll begin our discussion on what Shuddham and Apapavitham. Shuddha means one who purifies. Prabhupada writes as antiseptic, which means if you come in contact with the Lord, it will purify. An example is Narad Muni and Nalkuvera and Manigriva. As soon as Nalkuvera and Manigriva came in contact with Narad Muni, it began the journey of purification. that is Shuddham. And Apapa Vidham, which means proper that prophylactic. Prophylactic क्या है? Prophecy का मतलब नहीं है यहाँ पे. Prophylactic का मतलब होता है that which acts as a preventive measure. Prophylactic means preventive measure. Just like Krishna says, Devi Shugana Mahima Maya, Dhrittaya Mamaye Prapadyanti. One who takes my shelter will not get influence affected by the modes of matter nature. So one who has taken shelter of the Lord will not get contaminated by the modes of matter nature. There is no relapse. That's the point. Okay, so Shri Vagraha. Where were we? We are supposed to read the last paragraph of the next page, right? Huh? Okay, in the Bhagavad Gita. All right, who is reading? Anyone is ready here? Online, you have to connect with that if you read that way. Okay, we can have any online audience. I'm not able to see the audience right now. 1 second, please. Yeah. Krishna Chandru, welcome, welcome. पुरुषोत्तम मास में आपका स्वागत है.
Hare Krishna.
So all right, let's start with you. Krishna Chandru, would you like to read?
Which paragraph, Prabhu? The Lord is Apavritam or? I didn't attend yesterday.
Yeah, correct. Go to the purport begins.
In the Bhagavad Gita from there.
So it's a 3rd page, Krishna Chandra Prabhu.
Yeah.
Of the purport. There, in the middle, you'll see the paragraph in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, in the Bhagavad Gita, there it is said, is that the one, Prabhu?
Yes.
Yeah, there it is said that a scrupulous...
Oh, in the Bhagavad Gita 9.11 to 12, the Lord regrets the following condition from there.
Book. Mine is the old book.
Yeah, so no problem. Continue, Prabhu. We'll start wherever you're reading. That's okay.
There it is said that a scrupulous devotee may appear in the beginning to be durachara, not well behaved, yet he is still to be accepted as pure because he is on the right path. That is the prophylatic nature of the Lord.
Prabhu, that's ahead, Prabhu. We have to read from before.
The Lord is... Yeah. We're all in a different...
the ISOPANISHAD.
The 3rd paragraph of the purport. The 3rd paragraph of the purport, which starts.
We are in a different edition. Mine is edition.
So Krishna,
no, Prabhu, I can see what you're reading.
Haribol, all right. Shanti. Okay. Let's not debate where we are. All right. Purport.
The Lord is Apavidam.
The Lord is?
Apavidam, that is nothing like sin can touch him.
No. We have to go a little before. Go a little before. You're on the text 8, right? That's the ones you're reading.
Yes.
Correct. So there is, if you begin from the purport begins, go to the next page. Next page means just behind that, and then the 3rd page. It begins with similarly the Archa Vigraha, which is worshipped in the temples, is also an extended form. But you can share the screen, it will help.
Okay.
And the 3rd paragraph. So okay, I'll begin reading it. If you're able to catch up, Krishna Chandra, we can.
Yeah, in the Bhagavad Gita 9:11 to 12, there's the one. The Lord regrets the fallen condition of man with little knowledge who deride him because he descends like a man into this world. Such poorly informed persons do not know the omnipotence of the Lord. Thus the Lord does not manifest himself in full to the mental speculators. He can be appreciated only in proportion to one's surrender to him. The fallen condition of the living entities is due entirely to forgetfulness of their relationship with God. In this mantra, as well as in many other Vedic mantras, it is clearly stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from time immemorial. A living being desires something, and the Lord supplies the object of that desire in proportion to one's qualification. If a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualifications, but also the consent of the authority who can award the title of high court judge. The qualifications in themselves are insufficient for one to occupy the post, it must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to living entities in proportion to their qualifications. But good qualifications in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy of the Lord is also required.
Wow, what a point. So this is referring to the last line of the verse. Yathat yatu arthan vaya dadach. Arthan vaya dadach. The Lord fulfills the desires. So here the point is mentioned, qualification alone is not sufficient. Mercy of the Lord also counts. So can we have some reflection on this, what it means for a sadhaka, practicing devotee? Prabhupada gives an example, just like a high court judge, even if he had got graduated, got the necessary qualification, he must also depend upon the disposition of the authority who can award him the title of high court judge. Any reflection on this very interesting point Prabhupada is making? Qualification alone is not sufficient. Sanction of the Lord matters. Any reflection what it means? Yes, Ritesh, go ahead.
So Prabhuji, sometimes we think we do service and we think that it is the only way and we are doing good. But until and unless our senior authority is happy with us and
So samsiddhi haritoshanam, you know, it doesn't take a rocket science to understand what is pleasing and displeasing. You know, it's a very simple thing. If we are attentive to what we have been told and we are sensitive in dealings. Sensitive in dealings means we pay attention to the needs of other person also. Not that we become so insensitive, we keep on projecting our needs on other person. You know, a student should not become a burden. At times it happens where a harassment happens by the student. For example, well, I don't know if I should get into details of it, but there are many case studies like this, you know, where the teacher begins to run away from the student. Now, it's not that the student has done anything wrong. Student has, you know, has made some mistake or not properly practicing. It's just the behavior is highly insensitive. So pleasing counts, but how pleasing? Pleasing cannot happen when you're not sensitive. So sensitivity involves, okay. So the point of yours, some Shuddhi Haritoshanam should happen. I'm just making it's not difficult. Prabhupada writes, pleasing Vaishnava is very simple, very easy. It's very difficult to please the masters outside, but pleasing Guru and Krishna is very easy. What is needed? I mean, we sing this morning prayers, you know, Samsara Dhavanada, and that stanza is mentioned. Guru is pleased when he sees you honoring Krishna Prasadam. Guru is pleased when he sees you engaging in deity worship. Guru is pleased when he sees you engaging in devotional service. That's it. What is needed? Is it too complicated? Well, we make it complicated because we come from a complicated background. It's not so difficult. It's simple and straightforward. Okay, good point. What else it means? Not only your qualification, but blessings also counts. Any other reflection? Anybody online would like to reflect on it? We cannot claim our right. We cannot claim our right on the path of bhakti. It is my rightful claim. Why? Because I have been chanting. It's a path of mercy. And it has to come downwards, descending process. It is not the process of jnani. What is the difference between jnani and bhakta? It's a very subtle thing, but we need to pay attention to it. We miss out. We pay a lot of endeavor on, a lot of focus on our endeavors. Somehow, if I can, I can. That's largely a jnani platform. There's nothing wrong. We should endeavor. We should wake up in the morning, chant 16 hours, attend Bhagavatam, eat Krishna Prasad. This is all wonderful. This is all Prabhupada said. But there at times we become so endeavor conscious that we don't realize that we are pushing and shoving other Vaishnavas. Because of our actions and behaviors, we're causing inconvenience to other Vaishnavas. We are displeasing other Vaishnavas. Who cares for anyone? I have to please my Guru. I mean, can Guru be pleased if you're stamping onto the feet of other Vaishnavas? So that's the point. So the Gyani platform is very deeply rooted in our consciousness. So that's the thing. Okay, blessings. What else about yes, Principal? How it depends on mercy.
Just a side point, Roji, we see in this material world also who is not qualified, but he get the post. And we see so many qualified people, it's not necessary that they will get the
So
post.
now you're bringing to the point of the results depend on the 5 factors, as Krishna speaks in the 18th chapter.
Yes.
Your cheshta, adhishtanam, karta, karanam, and deva. These are the 5 factors Krishna mentions. You're not the only person, not that your endeavor counts. Deva has to be there. Deva means the blessings, the permission. Very nice, very nice. These are things which philosophy Prabhupada is discussing here. All right, let's continue. All right, Mother, you can read the next paragraph. Hare Krishna. शांति का वातावरण बहुत अच्छा है, परंतु आगे भी चलना है.
Sorry, I was not able to unmute.
ठीक है. Please read.
Yes. Ordinarily, the living being does not know what to ask from the Lord, nor which post to seek. When the living being comes to know his constitutional position, however, he asks to be accepted into the transcendental association of the Lord in order to render transcendental loving service unto him. Unfortunately, living beings under the influence of material nature ask for many other things, and they are described in the Bhagavad Gita as having divided or splayed intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is one, but mundane intelligence is diverse. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that those who are captivated by the temporary beauties of external energy forget the real aim of life, which is to go back to Godhead. Forgetting this, one tries to adjust things by various plans and programs. But this is like chewing what has already been chewed. Nonetheless, the Lord is so kind that He allows the forgetful living entity to continue in this way without interference. Thus, this mantra of Sri ISOPANISHAD uses the very appropriate word yatha tathayataha, indicating that the Lord rewards the living entities just in pursuance of their desires. If a living being wants to go to hell, the Lord allows him to do so without interference. And if he wants to go back home, back to Godhead, the Lord helps him.
So, Arthan Vaya Dadat, Lord awards. So, as Paramatma, that's the role of Paramatma, who sanctions. And it sanctions from a neutral point of view. You want it, so be it. And that's your karmic account balance. Next, Lord is described here as Paribhuhu. Paribhu means the greatest of all. The next paragraph. Mother Medhavani, please read the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. God is described here as Paribhuhu, the greatest of all. No one is greater than or equal to him. Other living beings are described here as beggars who ask goods from the Lord. The Lord supplies the living entity's desire. If the entities were equal to the Lord in potency, if they were omnipotent and omniscient, there would be no question of their begging from the Lord, even for so-called liberation. Real liberation means going back to Godhead. Liberation as conceived of by an impersonalist is a myth, and begging for sense gratification has to continue eternally unless the beggar comes to his spiritual senses and realizes his constitutional position.
So Paribhuhu, the greatest of all. Even the Mayavadis, they are beggars because they beg for moksha, liberation. But I was saying, if they were so omnipotent and powerful, why would they ask for moksha? So the Lord is the only omnipotent, the all-powerful. Now the next Prabhupada talks about Swayambhu. Swayambhu means self-manifested also, like Swayambhu is another name for Lord Shiva, like we say like that. Brahmaji is also said Swayambhu, and here Lord is also described as Swayambhu. And Prabhupada says Swayambhu also means being self-sufficient. He does not need Atmaram, he doesn't need anything like that. Mother Priyanka, read the next paragraph.
Krishna. The Supreme Lord is self-sufficient. When Lord Krishna appeared on earth 5,000 years ago, he displayed the full manifestation of Godhead by his various activities. In his childhood, he killed many powerful demons, and there was no question of acquiring such power by any extraneous endeavor. He lifted Govardhan Hill without any practice of weightlifting. He danced with the gopis without any social restriction and without any reproach. Although
Reproach or regret like that, or any concern. Continue.
Although the gopis approached him with feelings of amorous love, the mixing of the gopis and Lord Krishna has been worshipped even by Lord Chaitanya, who was a strict sannyasin and rigid follower of disciplinary regulation. To confirm this,
All right. Yeah. We'll read that just to make a point. So Lord is self-sufficient. His Atmanam does not depend on anything, which means, and Prabhupada gives an example, he didn't have to go to build his body to lift Govardhan. He just effortlessly lifted. He is self-sufficient, no rules and regulation binds him. He dancing with gopis and getting married to 16,000 plus wives. Actually, Krishna proved his omnipotency. Nobody can do that. And according to Acharya, there were 100 crore gopis who danced with Krishna like that. Even if, all right, Mathura Mandal ki population was matching with the population of current India, close to. Anyways, even if for that reason. So Prabhupada now makes a point very beautifully. He brings up and he says, why? Although from a moral point of view, that was inappropriate, but Prabhupada says he is without reproach. Not Prabhupada says, the verse says without reproach. How is without reproach? There are two things which are mentioned about the Lord, which we should be aware. One is, he is, the word uses in Sanskrit, Shuddham and Apapa Vidham. He is Shuddham, which means anyone comes in contact with him becomes purified. If it becomes purified, then there is a question of he causing contamination. And second, Apapa Vidham. Other quality is, once a person comes in contact, gets purified, he cannot become fallen again. So now, Mother Priyanka continue. That's what Prabhupada explains.
To confirm this, the ISOPANISHAD says that he is antiseptic and prophylactic, pure and uncontaminated. He is antiseptic in the sense that even an impure thing in the estimation of the mundane world can become purified just by touching him. The word prophylactic refers to his association and is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. There it is said that a surplus devotee may appear in the beginning to be durachara, not well behaved. Yet it is still to be accepted as pure because he is on the right path. That is the prophylactic nature of the Lord's association.
So Srila Prabhupada is quoting Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter. Apichesu dacharo bhajate mam ananyava. Apichet, even if durachari, not durachari, sudurachari, which means the most abominable action, such a person should still be considered a Mahatma if his determination is fixed to serve me. And then the next verse says, he gets very quickly fixed into his transcendental position. What's the next verse? Shipram bhavati, Shipram bhavati dhamma. Shipra means Shipra, Shigra. Very quickly he becomes a saintly person again. And that's a quality Prabhupada is saying. Why? Because Lord is apapa vidham and Shuddham. So now Prabhupada continues the discussion more on Apapavidham. Mother Anjana, read the next paragraph. The Lord is Apapavidham. So what was discussed was Shuddham, and now Apapavidham. Kindly unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, please read.
The Lord is also apart with him because sin cannot touch him. Even if he acts in a way that appears to be sinful, such actions are all good. For there is no question of his being affected by sin, because in all circumstances he is Shuddham, most purified. He is often compared to the sun. The sun extracts moisture from many untouchable places on the earth, yet it remains pure. In fact, it purifies obnoxious things by virtue of its sterilizing powers. If the sun, which is a material object, is so powerful, then we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of the all-powerful Lord.
Wonderful point, wonderful point. So Prabhupada is giving an example. Now Lord is, sin cannot touch him. In fact, wherever he enters, he purifies that place also. An example of sunlight. It evaporates moisture from all the places, even from the urine, where somebody has passed urine. Yet, sun does not get contaminated. In fact, it sterilizes that area like that. Just like if your clothes have not been dried up for days together, there are chances of getting fungus, or it gets a smell, which is bacteria. You bring it out and put it into the sunlight, it sterilizes automatically. Everything becomes okay. So, unless we have a Shastric Praman, we should not try to, really create an opinion about the pastimes of the Lord. Now, if somebody reads this is part of Upanishad, and if he reads this part of text where it describes the qualities of the Lord, Shuddham, Apapavidham, I don't think so there will be any controversy required anymore for Lord Shri Krishna dancing with gopis. Yes or no? But because people don't know, don't read. Everyone, see, you have to understand our capacity, our maximum limit is limited by our capacity to think. Our capacity to think is governed by our perceptions that we have cultivated with our life today in this world. We cannot go beyond that. If somebody is living in today's world where you have seen how girlfriend-boyfriend relationship and the conflict arising because of that extramarital affairs, etc., is considered highly immoral, isn't it? And now that person gets to know about Krishna's pastime of Rasalila. What do you think he will draw a conclusion? But obviously, he'll draw the same conclusion as the society has taught him. It is sinful. And the Lord becomes sinful. And then these people, they take the wagon wheel of making an announcement. Oh, how can you worship the Lord who did this? We don't worship the Lord because Lord performed Rasa Leela alone. We also worship the Lord because Lord was in Kurukshetra speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Well, they don't consider that aspect. They take only pick and choose. Therefore, Prabhupada said, those Vaishnavas, in fact, even those devotees who only believe Krishna means Vrindavan Krishna, they're not really the mature devotees. Maturity of Krishna consciousness means when they're equally interested in Dwarka Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, and Kurukshetra Krishna. However, they may have more attachment to any of the pastimes, but they would not reject or ignore it, because each of the pastimes has a significance like that. So that's it. Shuddham, Apapavidham. And this is not from Purana. This is from Upanishads, Shruti Shastras. So what can be more certified or more verified information? So here the inconceivable nature has been described, or not inconceivable, the qualities of the Lord has been described. Inconceivability was described before. Now an interesting set of verses begins from 9th verse onwards. One thing in particular of Upanishadic writings, there is no necessarily has to be a connection. So I remember when we were doing ISOPANISHAD, so some students were asking, Prabhuji, what is a connection? What is a connection? I said, only connection you should try to focus is how can I resume my connection with Krishna? Don't try to look in the connection, the verses in Upanishad. It doesn't work like that. It's not Bhagavad Gita. It's a conversation. Here, these are like prayers. There could be some connection in terms of the points which are like, now the verses will be connected because there is a point to be made. But the subject matter which begins from 9th verse is not in the same flow what was spoken until 8th verse. Okay, let's take a look at a little flow. So the prayer starts by Isha Vasyam declaring Isha is a controller, and one should accept whatever has been assigned for oneself as a quota. And those who continue to live life like this, they can live for longer years. Kurvanavahi karmani isyavisik shatma sama. Text number 2. And who cannot do like this, who do not accept the controllership, not the controllership, but the lordship or the lord, being the supreme personality, what happened? Asura nama triloka. They go to the lokas of asuras. They are casted into the ignorance like that. They're said to be the killer of souls. And then the qualities of the Lord, inconceivable nature is discussed. Text number 4 and 5. Like this is the 5th verse. 4th and 5th verse talks about inconceivable nature. Lord cannot be understood easily. It can only be understood through devotion. That is not Upanishad language. This is Bhagavad Gita. Nowhere it is mentioned in the Upanishad that Lord can be understood by devotion. That is what Bhagavad Gita says. We are drawing the conclusion from there. So you see a little disconnect here. So 3 verses brings you a certain point, and suddenly the 4th and 5th verse talks about the inconceivable nature of the Lord. But from the platform of Bhagavad Gita, if you look at it, you can make a story about it. And the story is, the Isha has been declared. Who accepts can live as long as possible. Those who cannot, they suffer in this life and the next life. The challenge here is understanding Isha is not an easy subject matter. You cannot understand Isha on your own endeavors. I'm quoting 30th chapter, verse number 8 to 12, the platform knowledge. So why we cannot understand Isha very easily? Because Isha is inconceivable. How is inconceivable? Text number 4 and 5 describes about it. Oh, really? So who can understand? Only pure devotees can understand. What is the quality of pure devotees? Tato vijgupsate. Okay. Yatra na vijgupsate. Tatra na vijgupsate. They do not envy anyone. And tatra kaha shoka kaha moha. And they are not bewildered, and they see everything in oneness. Ekatvam. These are the qualities described in verse number 6 and 7. Like this. So who can understand the Lord? Who has this vision? Again, the bhakti is not mentioned here. The bhakti shabd does not come in Upanishadic language. So bhakti is not mentioned here. Who has this vision? Who does not hate anyone? Why does not hate anyone? Because he sees the presence of soul and Paramatma everywhere. So there's no question of hating anyone. And second thing is oneness, the principle of oneness. And we discussed about the connection of this principle with Bhagavad Gita. The principle of oneness connected with Bhagavad Gita where? Nimitta matram bhavasa vasachi. Like that Krishna says. So that was 7. And then the 8th was the qualities of the Lord. Apapa Shuddham, Shukram, Paribhu, Swayambhu, Shuddham, etc. Atmanam is not the word here used. Okay, that is, what was the word used? So Swayambhu is the word. Like that, the qualities of the Lord has been described. So that kind of high level flow, if you want to think, you can make a story about it. Now comes 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? These 4 verses. No, 6 verses actually, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The interesting set of verses. Let's take a look at it, and we'll try to make a story on it afterwards. Okay? Yeah. Let's begin with text number 9. Before we proceed ahead, any clarification? This is proper purpose. I mean, we're just kind of reading book. Anything needed here about inconceivable nature, etc., etc.? Ashul ka haath khada hai. Advance party? Okay. All right. Andham tama praveshanti ye avidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yayu vidyayam rataha. अगर आपका कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल बढ़ता जा रहा है कि हम उपनिषद पढ़ सकते हैं, समझ आ रहा है, तो पढ़ के दिखाओ. अभी ये बाउंसर है. अंधम तमा प्रवेशन्ति ये अविद्याम उपासते Tato bhuya ivate tamah yayo vidyayamrataha. अगर आप मेरे क्लू को अभी भी नहीं समझे तो हम समझा देते हैं। क्या कहा गया है? प्रविशन्ति मतलब प्रवेश करना। अंधम तभा प्रवेशन्ति। प्रविशन्ति, helping you to break down Sanskrit. प्रवेश करते हैं in the place of mode of darkness. अंधम and तभा, like this. ये अविद्याम उपासते। उपासते मतलब उपासना, worship. ये means those. So pravishanti ye, who enters? Avidyam upasati. One who worships ignorance. If you want to call avidya as ignorance that way. कहाँ जाते हैं? अंधम and तमः. ततो भूया ivate tamo. Tato bhuya, it is considered ivate tamo. Bhuya means greater darkness. There is another category of people who was cast into a greater darkness. Yayu vidyayamrataha. Those who worship Vidya. नित्य गौर हरि बोल डडटुम हरि बोल डडटुम। कहाँ है हम लोग भाई? हम विद्या के उपासक हैं, विद्या के उपासक हैं। So that's the thing. Bhagavad Gita is still easy. Definitely has become very easy because we have Prabhupada's commentary. You know, Sanskrit scholar 700 श्लोक में से कम एक श्लोक तो आप निकाल ही लेंगे। धर्म क्षेत्र कुरुक्षेत्र, एटलीस्ट उसमें तो डिबेट नहीं करेंगे। You know, एटलीस्ट एक श्लोक तो समझ आ जाएगा। उपनिषद तो सिर के परे है, you know, खुद के सिरे के नहीं, खुद की पूरी वंशज के सिर के परे है, समझ नहीं आ सकता। Now, anyone, what do you make of it? We are talking of Sanskrit only, huh? We are not going in purport right now. Even let's read the translation. Those who engage in the culture of nescience shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the so-called culture of knowledge. So-called the Prabhupada ने डाला है चाचा, संस्कृत में थोड़ा है तुम्हारे। तो बताओ क्या चल रहा है? रहस्य। Very difficult, very difficult. And we get a glimpse of the difficulty of like this difficult nature in Bhagavad Gita also. Where? 13th chapter. I often say the most difficult chapter of Bhagavad Gita is 13th. I know devotees scratching their head, does not make any head and tail when they read 13th chapter. सिर के परे जाता है, क्या चल रहा है यहाँ पर? And in the 13th chapter also, what is the most difficult section? What is the most difficult section? So 13th chapter is about 6 questions. Kshetra, Kshetragya, Jnanam, Gneyam, and Purusha and Prakriti. Kshetra, Kshetragya हो गया, इतना आसान से नहीं हुआ, उसमें कंफ्यूजन है। कहते हैं पुरुष प्रकृति, प्रकृति हो गया, पुरुष, and then Jnanam, the process of knowledge हो गया, Niyam, the object of knowledge, that's the most difficult subject matter. And when you read even those shlokas, it looks like Krishna is saying, I am Paramatma. Well, we are Paramatma, if you remember. And then similarly in Purusha, discussion comes, Krishna says, you are Purusha. Arey, hum Purusha hai. But then it gets decoded in the concluding verse of that section. And then we discussed and debated on that subject matter, if you remember. You know, हम लोग इतने कॉन्फिडेंटली पढ़ते हैं, कभी ध्यान ही नहीं देते, सोचते हैं समझ गए। ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ के, but look into Sanskrit, it's not easy. It goes over that. So 13th chapter is the most complicated. I had scratched my head. I have naturally become bald after reading it many times. मैंने बाल पकड़ के खींचा, भाई क्या चल रहा है, क्या हो रहा है? Okay, fine, ठीक है. Now mantra number 9. So the point I made this, gave this little background. Whoever we are, how much of a scholar we are, unless we are connected to bona fide parampara, we cannot decode the message. Now this verse needs to be decoded. It is encoded with an encryption key. And that key comes in parampara line. And when you read the purport, it will not make a sense what is his connection with the translation verse. Because the verse itself doesn't make sense. इसका मतलब अगर एक दृष्टिकोण से देखा है, ignorance is bliss. Because I go to the lesser hellish region, then while cultivating, that's what the verse says, na? Tato bhiya yavate tamo. You are cast into the greater darker regions. Why? यायु विद्यायामृता, क्योंकि अविद्या को पूज रहे हैं. ये तो बड़ा, तो इस प्रकार के श्लोक होंगे तो फिर मायावादी इत्यादि इत्यादि लोगों का जन्म तो होगा ही होगा ना. Isn't it? All right, let's take a look. We can at least do the introduction to this verse. Purport, the first paragraph. Mahashai, पढ़ो.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This mantra offers a comparative study of Vidya and Avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly.
Okay, before we read that, who is reading this for the first time here? Who is reading this ISOPANISHAD for the first time? तुमने पढ़ा नहीं? यार इतनी बार पढ़ा चुके हैं सब. हाथ खड़ा करो. ठीक है. Let's go online also. Who is reading this ISOPANISHAD for the first time? All right. Mother Anjana, Mother Sudha, Mother Priyanka, Mother Shweta, Mother Indu Radhika. अरे तुम लोग के हाथ ये पढ़ने के लिए है या मेरे प्रश्न का जवाब दे रहे हो तुम लोग? पहले तो कैमरा ऑन करो फटाफट, पता चले क्या चलेगा यहाँ पर.
प्रभु फर्स्ट टाइम
अंशुल जी तुम रुक जाओ अभी हम थोड़ा डाइसेक्शन करेंगे, ठीक है? All right. You got to give yourself. So please don't look at the purport. Let's check the limits of our speculation. Please, you give your purport. What do you think is happening here? आज तो हमारे मेंटल एबिलिटी चेक हो जाए, हमारी स्पेकुलेशन की कितनी शक्ति है. करो स्पेकुलेट, क्या करना चाहते हैं आप लोग? आपको फुल फ्रीडम दी गई है. Make a guess. What is happening? It is only for those who have not read the purport and who are not reading it right now also. Don't read it and come back with an answer. सारी आंखें ऊपर उठाओ अपनी. चलो हरी बोल, ऊपर देख, नीचे नहीं देखने का. अब बोलो, अब मतलब we're just seeing what limit can we really speculate. Let's try for it. Let's aim for it. Okay. It is only for those who have never read it and who did not read just now when I asked a question. Okay. ठीक है. Let's begin with our online audience.
Prabhuji, can I try? I have not read it. I'll just try.
Yes.
What is that? Words are those who still engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge means that people try to read the scriptures and all, but they don't.
वर्ष ने थोड़ा वो सो कॉल्ड शब्द ने थोड़ा सीक्रेट खोल दिया यार, वो गलत है, गलत हो गया. मुझे अपने सेंस के ट्रांसलेशन पे आप लोग को रोकना था. सो कॉल्ड से वो थोड़ा आपको गैप मिल गया सोचने का. ठीक है, चलो कोई बात नहीं, करो अभी बोलो. यस, मजा तब आता जब सो कॉल्ड हम ट्रांसलेशन नहीं पढ़ते ना, तब आप स्पेकुलेट करते, तब मजा आता. क्या सोच सकते हो इसमें? यस मदर, गो अहेड, ट्राई.
Yes, Prabhuji. That's what always comes in the scriptures also. No, those who have little knowledge, but they don't practice it, they are still worse off than the people who are ignorant actually.
So you're saying half knowledge is more dangerous than no knowledge. That's what precisely you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Any Jivatmas from here? मेरी प्यारी आत्मा. मैं नहीं बोलता, His Holiness Navavivinda Maharaj बोलते हैं. All right. Hey, तूने पढ़ा नहीं अभी विषय का? Okay, let's hear from you.
So, Prabhuji, the person, the knowledgeful person we are mentioning here, so actually they try to understand by their own and creating an illusion the whole society. So, for them it is a more worse than.
Okay, जैसे हम लोग अभी speculate करने का प्रयत्न कर रहे हैं. Okay, Varun Prabhu. Wait a second, I need to unmute my speaker here. Go ahead.
I think people who are very much interested in attaining knowledge per se, if they don't have any devotional attitude or anything, they don't get the background of that, and ultimately they get into that Mayavad mode. I am doing everything and I am the responsible, and then when they start preaching, they will be disastrous for us.
Very nice. So Yayu Vidyayamrata. Yeah. So very nice point. One who brought it. So it's not only we are studying scriptures. We means I'm not referring us. I mean to say there are different conclusions. I began our discussion with, conclusions. We draw different conclusions. So there are different philosophies that have manifested, not philosophies, not philosophy, or the conclusions have manifested from the reading of scriptures. And if any conclusion, if it is different than, as Krishna says in 15th chapter, verse number 15, Sarvasya Cham Vedi Sandivishtu Matasmata Jnana Papavancha Vedais Cha Sarve Aham Eva Vedya Vedantakrit Vedavid Eva Chaham Ai. If any conclusion is different than that, that is far dangerous than avidya. Why? At least if you're ignorant, there's a possibility to educate you. But if you claim you know, then how would you learn? Isn't it? Kya shlok hai, majedar, isn't it? And the purport makes it exciting. You got the point? I'll repeat again. What is being described here? Those who are ignorant, they still have a chance to be educated. Just like Prabhupada went to the West, and people loved. The stories which we have heard from childhood, when they heard it for the first time, it was like, wow. When I, read about Prabhupada's those, that when the Prabhupada was here in this world and that particular 12 years, so many devotees have written about it. It fills my heart with amazement. How in different times, on occasions, they came across different pastimes. They had no idea on Narasimhadev. They didn't know about Lord Rama. चलो कृष्ण तो चलो सुन लिया कि हरे कृष्ण मंत्र जा रहे हैं तो कृष्ण मंत्र तो सुना ही है. They didn't know about Lord Rama. They didn't know Narasimhadev. We knew about from childhood. And their excitement was like, wow, really? हमें धक्का मार के हमें पढ़ाना पड़ता है, पढ़ो बैठ के. And they were loving it because it was for the first time like this. So when somebody is ignorant, then there is a chance of transformation. There is a potential. If he doesn't become, to andam tamam pravishanti. But very difficult those who claim to know. And examples particularly refers to brahmanas. जो पूजा पाठ करने वाले लोग हैं, या यूपी के ब्राह्मण पर्टिकुलरली. यूपी का ब्राह्मण बहुत स्पेशल है. बताओ क्यों स्पेशल है? कितने हैं यूपी के ब्राह्मण यहाँ पे हमारे? कौन दो हैं? अच्छा हाँ, अभिषा जी भी 3 है अभी. हमारी शुद्धता बढ़ रही है. यूपी के ब्राह्मण है यहाँ पर. बताओ यूपी के ब्राह्मण क्यों स्पेशल है? अरे यार, यूपी में दोनों जन्म स्थान है, मथुरा भी और अयोध्या भी. तभी वाले बोलते हैं यार हमारे घर की बात है, राम यहाँ कृष्ण यहाँ, हमें तुम कहाँ से आए हो पढ़ाने के लिए? तो वो सुनते ही नहीं है. एक हाथ में सिगरेट होती है, बीड़ी होती है, दूसरे हाथ में चाय का ग्लास. दोनों तक पी के बोलते हैं बस बोलो राम राम, तो करके उनकी अपनी लीला चलती है. So that's the point here. Okay, we'll take this verse forwards when we connect again. I am not available for the next 2 days. I should be back on Wednesday evening. So we'll resume our discussion from Thursday morning. So with that, we pause here. Just let's take a look who all our participants here. So I'm kind of going to be a little in a hurry because I'm becoming restless for, I really want to start teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It had been my heart's desire from the beginning of the year, but then I thought I'll take a group to a little bit of, again, Prabhupada's major books, and then come to TLC. ISOPANISHAD, I spoke elaborately. Some of you, most of you might have heard of it. इसलिए नहीं सुना, उनको आगे सुनने को मिलेगा हमारे weekend program में. But TLC has been for a long time, we haven't read. I believe आप सुन तो पढ़ा ही नहीं है. We want to read TLC. So I'm going to really go quickly with this verses. अभी भी 17 श्लोक, अभी भी कितने 8 श्लोक बचे हैं. I want to get into the excitement of teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Jagdaro Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Isho.
Prabhu, can we also look at Brahma Samhita, Prabhu?
Brahma Samhita, yes, mother. We'll look at Brahma Samhita. We'll look at Gopal Champu. We'll look at Brad Bhagavad Amrita. We'll look at Chaitanya Bhagavad. We will also look at Vidagdha Madha, Lalit Madha when we are back in Gokul Vrindavan.
Prabhu, Brahma is our Param Guru. Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya, Vaishnava, Parampara. We don't know what Brahma is saying.
Don't worry. We should follow Prabhupada. That is enough. Brahma Samhita. Yeah, Brahma Samhita. We'll come to Brahma Samhita also. Brahma Samhita. So, who gave us Brahma Samhita? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Chaitanya.
So the way to Brahma Samhita has to be from teachings of Lord Chaitanya. All right, parampara ko follow karo. So when you go through TLC, then you go to Brahma Samhita. All right, Hare Krishna.